Welcome to the Side Quest, where interesting tales of founders, funders, and everyone in between are told.
Hello, and welcome to the Side Quest. Today is March 3rd. We're at the beginning of March, and my name, as always, is Joe Colopy. I am the Grumpy Godfather. With me, as always, is Sonali of Primordial. How's it going, Sonali?
It's going good. I'm excited for the 80-degree next few days we're going to have in Durham.
I know. Even today, I think it's going to start warming up a little bit, and definitely want to hear about if anyone has any plans. But of course, before we get too far into it, we want to bring on our guest, and one's a very familiar voice and face at Grep Beat. Let's hear from Pete McEntegart.
Hello. The name's actually Pete Smack now, but that's okay. I still answer to my birth name. But yes, Pete
Okay.
McEntegart. How are you?
Very, very good.
It's so good to have you on, and it's so nice to formally meet you.
Yeah, this is our first official meeting tonight. But Joe, I do know for quite a while now.
There we go. Pete, we're going to get into it, and we're going to hear about the retransformation or recreation of Pete Smack revisiting. Of course, we've been on the air endlessly through the Friday Nooner, predecessor of this show, and so
Sure.
I know many of the backstories and tales of the past. But we're going to focus a little bit more on the future. But before we get into that, we are going to have some warmer days. I do want to know what your morning routine was today, whether you've changed it up since you were at Grep Beat, and what do you have planned the next few days when it's going to be warmer?
Whoa. Okay. So my morning routine, well, I don't get up as early as I used to, but I have kept I still have a similar, so I still wake up and work out on kind of 5 days a week. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays, my old Grep Beat newsletter days, I just get right to work. So today was a get up. I don't know. Actually, I woke up earlier than my alarm. Woke up at like 6 something today, but I usually wake up about 7:45-ish. So I went to my office, which others know as Panera, and I was there for a couple hours, and then I came back to do this. I probably will go to at least one more Panera this afternoon. This one maybe in Apex because I have something to do this evening.
Panera hopping.
And Apex. Yeah, I'm a big Panera guy. We can actually get into that because that is relevant. But yes, I'm a member of the Ultimate Sip Club. Not to brag, but yeah, so that's unlimited.
But a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, seriously, just go anywhere. Just tell them, Pete Smack, right? And pay $128.99. But unlimited hot and cold drinks. I essentially use Panera's as my office because I like to get out. And so I literally spend like 25 hours a week in various Paneras as my office. I have a morning one and then sometimes a different afternoon one. The warm weather, I'm excited, but I'm afraid it's going to be a little too warm. On Saturday, I'm actually doing a last man standing event in Carolina Beach, and I don't want it to be in the 70s. I'd rather be in like the 60s. So that's going to be, this one is like every hour on the hour, a 4-mile loop until there's only one person doing it. And so we'll see how long that goes.
Wait, so for context, at first when you started speaking, I thought you were referring to, and we're going to get into all this, your comedy show, Last Man Standing. But
Right,
you
well,
were
that's the name.
actually, which I'm like, what are you guys doing outside on the sand? That's weird. Why do you care what the weather is? But you're actually talking about the race in which the comedy show is kind of named after.
Well, competition, not a race, but yes, this is a running event. Actually, this one also has a rucking division, which more people are doing. Rucking is like basically walking with weighted.
Okay, I see.
Weighted backpacks, and there's more people doing that. And then a few people are doing something called a hybrid, which I guess every hour you flip a coin that determines whether you do the 4-mile running loop or the 3-mile ruck route. It's not a big event, so I do think it's winnable for me, and that is my goal. Someone the first year apparently did 76 miles in this, which would be like 19 hours, but I heard that person moved away, so I don't know.
We're good
Well,
now.
listen,
That-
but someone
that's
was
just strategy.
second, though. Someone was pushing that person. So I'd like to know who that person is. But it's more like I'll do, the 8 or 10 hours and then see how it's looking.
Got
It's
it.
kind of
Got
the
it.
goal.
We are just scratching the surface in all things our Pete Smack. And as many of our listeners and viewers know,
Branding.
you were, the inaugural Grit editor for 6 years. And so
Yes.
everyone knows that. And not everyone knows your interesting backstory. So just to take many steps back.
Yes. Okay.
Maybe we're going to get into how you're doing stand-up comedy and
Sure.
you're doing races and rucking on the weekend. Maybe not so much the rucking, but maybe you could just tell us a little bit of how little baby Pete in Long Island has gotten to find his way to being this stand-up comedian here based out of Raleigh, North Carolina.
Whoa. That's quite
a lot.
Yeah, I'm 56. That's a lot. We don't have.
Well, you
I'll
can
try
have
to
the
compress.
get the highlights,
Yeah.
right?
Okay,
Because I know you have a long sordid history, and many people know
Did you say
it.
sorted?
I did.
Okay.
I did. My words, not yours, but
Right.
whatever.
No,
Open.
not
That's
my
Molly
words.
can
Right.
interpret that herself. If
Yeah.
she likes.
Yeah.
But she doesn't know your background.
Right.
So
Right. Yes. I'm happy.
Would love to be enlightened.
Sure.
Truly.
tell us where it's
Yeah.
or not.
I'll try and hit the high notes. Okay. So I'm from New York. I'm
An islander.
I
The
grew up
island.
on Long Island. We don't
No.
call them Islanders
Yeah.
except the hockey
I
team.
do.
Actually, I did not realize that Tim McLaughlin. I listened to that episode. My dad was also a New York City police officer, but he did not move. They didn't move down. He then became a mailman, and then they retired.
They didn't have
and moved.
overlap like they weren't.
I don't know. I'd have to.
Partners
Well,
on
my dad
both.
retired when he was in like 1984, so I know Tim is younger than me. I'd have to check that with him. But at any rate, grew up in Long Island. I went to high school in Manhattan, so I commuted to high school, took the Long Island Railroad and 3 subways. I went to Williams College, of which I am a very big fan.
Williams, is that kind of almost as good or like Amherst? Kind of a copy it? No? Sorry, I'm just
you have that
confused. I
backwards.
get
Yeah,
confused.
you are confused. No, so Williams, Amherst actually defected from Williams.
I
That's
know.
why they're the
I
biggest
know. We've
defectors
talked about
in
this
1826.
endlessly.
Okay, all right. Well, you brought it up, right? Don't try to like pick a scab. Yes, I'm a Williams guy. My first job out of college, I did the investment banking thing. I worked at Goldman Sachs for 3 years in New York and London. I did that in part because they were like the only places, them in consulting, that came and recruited. I felt like I needed a job. I did that for 3 years, took the logical next step and became a sports writer. So one does. I did that for 12, 13 years, mostly at Sports Illustrated. Then I moved to LA and I was a comedy writer for TV and film for about 5 years.
You played basketball with Adam Sandler.
Yes, that was
Wow.
that was true. That doesn't make me that special. He plays basketball with a lot of people. But yes, he was in our regular weekly game, which I did play in the end of December when I took my show out there. So I did that. And then next, I was co-founder of a tech startup. So I moved to Chicago for that. I did that for about 5 years when I'd lost enough of my money. And then my family had all moved to Raleigh over time. And at that point, and so I moved to Raleigh to start something new. Within about a month and a half, I first thought that I was like, well, maybe I can get into VC or something. And I looked up, there was going to be, I don't know if they called it Venture Connect, but CED's conference. And I saw that someone named Joe Colpe was going to be the co-chair, and it's like Colpe Ventures. I was like, whoa, I thought I heard of the, 3 VCs in town. I haven't heard of this. So I reached out to Joe and found out it wasn't really a VC firm. It was a guy with a big exit and a shingle out. And I talked to you about being VC, and you're like, don't do VC. That's silly. But I'm thinking of starting Grep Beat, what became Grep Beat. And I had a background in journalism and in startups. And I thought I heard him say he wanted it to be funny, but that might have just been through my prism.
These are all Pete's words, not mine.
Right,
But we'll
right.
go with his interpretation
that
of
is-
events.
What do you mean? You certainly, the whole thing that you wanted to launch Grep Beat. you were
Listen,
looking for
this
something.
is an opinion show. We're not chasing
Okay.
facts and, just whatever your interpretation.
I'm fine chasing facts, but yes, Joe hired me to launch Grep Beat. You had already had some work, part of like the directory, which is not really a thing anymore, but you'd had, some young
I had some
intern
interns,
types working on it. And so you hired me and I launched kind of the journalism side. And so the first newsletter was in August of 2018. And I was there for almost 6 years through the end of June 2024.
Yeah.
And so, that's my Grep Beat.
Wow.
And here's a Grep Beat.
Oh my gosh, there
yeah.
it is.
Yeah. So coming up to his background in order to inform our listeners and viewers, any questions or things that don't quite add up?
Don't
I
add up.
went don't add up.
I'm saying.
Not right here. The receipts. No, get it. I am so interested in the fact that you went from Goldman Sachs investment banking to doing sports writing, and I love that you made that jump. But what was it about investment banking? Did it just like drain you of all of your life and energy? And
No bias in that.
how foolish did you feel on a scale of 1 to 10 after you finished Goldman Sachs and decided to do something you really enjoy doing?
Yeah. That's a good question. So, it's a 2-year program. I think it still is a 2-year program. I stayed a third year, which is not uncommon, but it's not necessarily part
Is that a
of the
good thing
deal.
or a bad thing? Is it like like a 7-year college plan kind of situation? Or is it?
No, I mean, they like me, right? And also you could make, more in your third year. I was in kind of I sort of got into Goldman just because, like I said, it's like, well, I'm graduating.
Yeah.
I needed the first day of, in early senior, I sat down with like the career counseling and I was like, well, I'd like to get a job and I owe money, so I wouldn't mind making some money. And she said, do you have a high GPA? And I said, yes. And she said, investment banking and consulting. I was like, okay. So then I went to the information sessions and then once the interviewing started, then it was like a competition. I was like, that guy got a call back. He is an idiot. Like, and I sort of, at first my interviewing strategy was all wrong and I changed that. And then I started doing better. And so I kind of just fell into it. And then after a few years at Goldman, I say the third year in part, like, cause I wasn't sure what I wanted to do next. I knew staying here, I wanted to go to London. I wanted to do something internationally, wanted to bank a little money. But then it was during that year, it got a little more serious because then I got an offer to stay on and like direct promote to associate, not have to go to business school. That is not that common. But I was like, no, like I can't. I figured if I stayed, then I'd have to stay for quite a while. And then you have you're making a lot of money and then you have a lifestyle to do that. I was like, I need to see something else. So I was like, no. And they're like, what? I just think they were
That's
used
power move. I respect
saying no.
that.
Right. And so then people were kind of asking, like, I heard you said no. And I was like, what are you doing? I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And like, I realized that wasn't a very good answer. And so even for myself, I needed an answer. And so one night I was sitting in London, it's late as it was often. And I was like, I need to be chasing something. I was like, what do I want to do? It's like, well, I've always really been into writing and I've always been into sports. Like maybe I should be a sports writer, but I hadn't really done that. But the summer, my freshman year after high school, my dad, when he retired from the police department, he had a lot of paid vacation. And so we went to all the baseball stadiums. It was like his idea to take a trip across the country, me and my younger brother. It's like, I should write the story of that and I don't know, try to get placed. And so I spent a while It's like 17,000 words, totally unpublishable, super long. The only place I'd even really looked at it was Sports Illustrated. And even they were like, yeah, you're not really right. 17,000 words. But like in the process of writing that, I was like, well, I should just do this.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. I took a year off and like applied to journalism schools because I didn't know what I was doing. And I knew I'd be an attractive candidate because they want to be able to be like, we've got a former investment banker, we've got a doctor. And in fact, actually the first day at Columbia, they did have a little spiel of like some of your classmates, and I was in there as like the former investment bankers. Like I knew, like I understand the score.
Mhm.
So I did that, and that's kind of why I did that. It took me a couple years to get to Sports Illustrated, but that was sort of I just said no to staying straight on, and then I was like, I need to actually chase something and not just say no to this, and that's how that came about.
That's incredible. I think like taking a leap of faith like that is rare and difficult, especially knowing that you don't want to do, banking, but then not necessarily knowing yet what the next step will be,
Right.
but just taking a leap of faith and betting on yourself. And I think
I will say it's easier to do when you're 25 and have money in the bank.
Yeah.
I have made some more similar leaps in less of a position of strength, but but yeah, at that time was more like, hey, I'm 25. I have what seems like a lot of money because not really a spender. And it's like, I can do anything. And I will say, being an analyst at Goldman, you do not lack for confidence after that. So it was like, well, anything I do, I'm going to kill, which didn't necessarily always turn out to be the case. But yeah, that was kind of that sort of first jump. And then after that, it's always like, well, I already did this once, so maybe I can redefine myself every next years.
I think that's a great lesson for the Gen Zers, right? I think when you're that age, it's more of a mental challenge than having real financial and physical constraints. And then later on,
very low overhead. You've talked about this when you're starting Pronto, like low overhead. You were married, which is different.
But even back in the day,
like Red Hat, right?
Well, even before I was in the Peace Corps, right? So when I was in college, I was a
Yeah.
teacher in the Peace Corps, and then I was off of some island off of East Africa, and then I was in Guayso.
Peace Corps Light. I've heard it referred to, but
yes. Well, we will have to regurgitate that.
That was not me. But
that was not
Megan
you, but you brought it up. That being said, so everyone, I think a lot of listeners and viewers are familiar with you through GretBeat.
Sure.
Most people are probably less familiar of what you've done in almost coming up the last 2 years as Pete Smack and your stand-up career. Maybe you could talk a little bit about how that's been going, what the Last Man Standing comedy show, a few other things, and kind of what's been going on with the stand-up career, because that is your latest and transformation in terms of who you want to be and what you want to do professionally.
What I am doing. So I would, stand-up was always something, not always, but kind of in the back of my mind. So once I left Goldman, I took that year off. I was applying to schools, but I had time. And so I was like, what should I do? I started writing scripts, TV scripts, movie scripts, and I wrote some Seinfeld specs, what they call writing them, basically just a sample script.
Mm-hmm. When you're doing that, you're writing a sample, are you writing a pretend Seinfeld episode?
Yes,
then you submit, but you're not submitting it to Seinfeld.
You're not submitting it. It's just more a writing sample. And at that time, it was mostly like they would expect you to write sample scripts of existing shows, because the people reading them would know, like, are you capturing the character?
You're building your portfolio.
Right. It's just like a writing sample, but they just call them spec scripts. And at that time, early Seinfeld, remember, used to have like this stand-up. They had his stand-up at the top in the early years, because this is like 94. It was only maybe 2 or 3 years old. So I had to write, so I wrote 2 specs, and so I had to write his stand-up for him. And I was like, this comes really naturally to me. And we do have somewhat similar voices. I think, and like some of the same sort of comedy. So I was like, you know what, maybe I should do this. And so then it was like, so I went to grad school, and then the next year I was then writing stand up. And my first newspaper job was in Manassas, Virginia. I was only there like 9 months, but I actually wrote a bunch of stuff. I went to an open mic and no one else showed up. So they canceled the open mic. So then I went home and did it for my two roommates, who one who's now married to my best friend. But that's we wrote together the paper. I'd known them from Columbia. That's actually how one of them was there first, brought me in, and then we brought the other person in. So anyway, I did stand up for them, but that was I didn't do it again until like 2004-ish when I was in New York. I was like, you know what, I just want to do this. And so I took a class because I knew that there'd be a show at the end and a real comedy thing. So I did that, and then that had a show. I enjoyed that. And then I took another class with the same guy. So there were two more shows, but I was just kind of doing, like, I just wanted to do shows in real clubs. It's like, if we wanted to do it seriously, I had an open mic. So I went to an open mic, and it's terrible. There's like 6 comics, and it's just comics, and they're just thinking about what they're going to say. It's like, no one's here. No one's laughing. What happened to the show in a club with all my friends? It's like, this is no good. And I did think about, like, all right, if I want to try to do this for real, I'd need like a different job. But I wasn't like going to say quit, like say at SI, like maybe I tried to be a copy editor, right? Because that was a different, more structured job. You weren't trying to move up. And a lot of them were creatives. They were authors, they were dancers, they were actors. And so I was like, so I sat down with the guy who was my teacher to be like, hey, basically, how good do you think I could be? Because, maybe I changed jobs. He's like, whoa, no one go quitting your. So I don't know, he may not have thought I was that good, but I think I got the sense that he didn't want to say anything that might make me like quit my job is the way he was thinking it, like, since I hadn't done anything at that point. And so I kind of put that on the back burner. And then when I was in LA as a comedy writer, I was more like, I need to make it as a writer. I need to focus on this. And then if I'm real established, then I can start doing stand-up again. But I never really got that established as a writer. And so I just never did it again. And then when I was at Crep Beat for a while, and I was trying to think, like, I want to take one more swing because the startup didn't really work. Writing in Hollywood, I had some success, but I didn't really make it big. It's like, I want to take one more swing at something. It's just Christmas Day, 2022. I was on a run, and I just was in this mind space of like, I want to do something else. And I was like, stand up, do that. Like, you always wanted to do it. Like, so now I'll do it, just take it seriously and see where I can go. And so I was like, all right, I'll resolve this year. I'm just going to try really hard. So I took another class, and then I was like, this time I'm going to open mics multiple times a week, every week. And by that summer and fall, I was like, it's not like I was showing all this progress, but I was like, I just really like this process.
Fall of 2023.
Right.
Okay.
Fall of 23. And then I was like, well, how can I make the leap? Because I'm not going to be making enough money to do, the normal one for someone to be like, do it and then do it full time is because you're making enough money doing stand up. I was like, well, that seems too long. I'm already 50 something. Yeah. And so I was like, well, you know what? I don't know. So at some point I was like, well, what if I raised money and that can bridge me? Mm-hmm. And then I looked into WeFund. So I talked to Will McGuire, and he was like, I think that would be interesting to some of these platforms because you would be different.
And just for context, Will is kind of our local expert in crowdfunding.
Yes.
And, campaigns and such.
Right. And so I talked with him, and he put me in touch with some platforms, and one of them was pretty excited about it and like thought I could do it. And once I got some confidence that I thought, and there was a $50,000 minimum. So that's like the big hurdle. But once after a couple of months, I thought, I think I can raise that. And then I was like, I'm going to do that. And it was still another month or two before I mentioned anything to Joe. I wasn't sure how long I was going to not, bring it up to him, because it wasn't like I wasn't really doing it yet. But then it was another like talk about the future of rep beat. I'm like, I don't want to do spec. I don't want to expand. That seems like a lot of it's like, I want to do this. And you're like, oh, okay. I will say Joe transitioned very quickly to like, oh, okay, you're going to lead. Now let's talk about your transition. I was like, you don't really seem sorry.
I was the executive where a lot of people have come and gone.
Yeah, you've done a good job. Okay, but let's, it sounds like you're going. So let's talk about the transition. I was like, wow, you didn't really fight me too far, but yeah, that's fine.
Well, I mean, it wasn't a really first conversation, and I knew Rep Beat was a transition to something else. So can you talk a little bit about Pete Smack today and your Last Man Standing comedy show, and what is your day-to-day, your month-to-month these days?
Right. So from the start of when I started to do it full time, I wanted to do like an hour special. And that's another thing where people wouldn't generally do it that soon. But that's what I wanted to do. And in part, that was one of the reasons I raised money. So it's like, I know, like, I'm not at the point where I'm headlining, comedy clubs are not paying me to headline. But I can rent a theater and I can, hit up everyone I know to come. I can hire someone to film it. And so I did. And then that gave me a big goal to work towards, to build an hour. And I was certainly building material. And then once you kind of step back a bit, then it's like, oh, these things could fit together. And like thematically, I had a lot of it was kind of, this last year and a half of change in my life. I left GrabP to do this full time. I raised money to do it. I was going to move in with my parents, and even before that happened, my dad passed away, and that obviously was a big shift. It's funnier when I talk about it on stage, but and so then it was like, I'm living with my mom, and she's actually quite a character, and so that kind of
you're talking about a lot of your sort of like lived experience when you
were and that obviously I didn't know that would be the focus of the story of the show when I first conceived of it. I just knew I wanted to do an hour, and so that was in September, and Joe was there. Joe also is the lead investor of just to be clear about that, so then I filmed it, and finally we're done with the editing in January, and I've been sending it around, and in part it's like, all right, now I have this asset potentially, but I will say that I can say without pretty high degree of confidence it will be distributed on some major platforms. There's a company that I'm negotiating the terms with to distribute it and acquire it, but then whether they actually pay me anything up front in addition to the sort of revenue share on the back end, that's one of the things we're negotiating.
Well, now, as you know, HBO Max and Paramount Plus are merging. Would you say that your comedy special was the linchpin to make that deal happen?
Yes, I would not say that. No,
probably
it might be. I understand you can't say it.
You can't talk about it.
We get it. We can read. We can hear it in your voice.
So I don't. Since I have not signed this deal at this point, and I just sent them yesterday kind of my counter proposals, and they haven't. It's not like I'm checking my email every couple of minutes, but they have not yet. It's back. I don't think I scared them off. They wrote, that they absolutely loved it, and I don't have a ton of leverage because I don't have a big audience, but I don't have zero leverage because there are production companies as well, but in this case, I'm handing them a delivered, final product that they didn't spend any time or effort or money to make. And so we'll see. Ultimately I will agree to whatever terms they agree to. But I figured I should ask for a few things, a few terms. And so I'll have more to say on that, in a bit. So that's something I'm very excited about. And that's something that I can hope, like I'm already kind of writing back to people that I've been writing to
Awesome.
more or less success to be like, hey, this thing is being distributed. Some, the respected gatekeeper is saying they like it. So maybe, and so we'll see what that happens.
Well, fingers crossed.
Right.
So, as you know,
Head
we're
talk.
coming.
Did not.
Okay, well, we're coming to the end of the
Yeah,
side
sorry.
quests. You've had many
Whoa,
side quests,
okay.
which are
Jeez.
turning into main quests, right? Any final thoughts where people could watch you live or online, so people can be sure to kind of follow what you're doing this Pete Smack?
Yes, I am Pete Smack on, your Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I have on Facebook a fan page. I'm Pete Smack there, and so follow me there, and you'll see, when it probably won't be till this summer that it'll be available on unnamed major platforms. It's possible there would be a better one before that, probably lower odds of a bigger platform. So that's one thing. Two, I did a TEDx talk a couple weeks ago at UNC, and so that'll come out in, they don't tell you, 2 to 6 months. But that one I did. So the topic was like, the best way to achieve, your big goals is to do it like a stand-up comedian builds an hour-long special, one bite-sized chunk at a time, bit by bit. And so then I told the story of me doing the special. So it's kind of a back to our
it's kind of
for the special.
Yeah,
Right. And another thing, they should follow me online next month. I'm going to be doing Panera-thon, in which I'm going to go to all 88 Paneras in the state of North Carolina in a 5-day span. And I have kind of the director of brand marketing at Panera on board for that. So they should be promoting that.
I mean, you've
paid
sort of convinced me on Sip Club already.
Yeah, there you go.
Sip Club.
So I think, so yeah, that's something they can then follow. I guess they particularly like TikTok, but I'll probably do it on multiple things. So that's going to be April 6th to 10th. So if people follow me before then. So yeah, those are kind of the big things I got going. The special coming out, TEDx at some point, Panera-thon next month.
Look forward to all of it. Sounds like, since this will be going on Thursday and subsequent days, you're at Panera 1 or 2 times every day.
Yes, 3601 Capitol Boulevard.
Okay. If they want to see you live, you could pay to go to one of your shows. You could potentially watch it online in one of these I Am Pete Smack, or you can go to that Panera and just see you, in part of the Sip Club. All options.
Yes. They're all good options.
All right, Pete. It's
Venmo,
always good.
I think Venmo.
Okay. It's always good catching up,
Venmo.
and look forward to seeing you around and online, and wish you all the best in terms of, especially as an investor, in terms of
I got my branding, sorry.
Oh, love
Well,
the
then the graphic, your daughter,
Xiomara. Yeah, she did the graphic.
She did a great job.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us. It's always been a pleasure, and we will see you online and offline around the triangle and beyond.
Yes. So now, Joe, thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome. Cheers.
Bye.